It's Friday, May 9th, 2008.
I'm Jason Howell.
I'm Josh Lowenson.
And I'm Todd Merritt. Welcome to Buzz Out Loud, CNET's podcast of indeterminate length, episode 721. It's a Friday, which means we are actually recording this in the CNET TV studios, if it sounds a little different on your audio podcast.
And it probably will. It's going to sound different. We're not in the audio studio. No matter what we do on this end, it's going to sound a little bit different. But hopefully it sounds better than last week.
If you are listening to the audio, you can get this at cnettv.com. Both this and last week's video versions. A lot of people were confused by that.
That's right.
And we will have a video podcast feed for the video version as well, correct?
I am going to be working on that this afternoon. So my hope is that before I leave home for the weekend, my prime objective is to get BOL video as a podcast feed on podcast.cnet.com.
As you may have realized, Molly Wood not here. She's home with a sick baby, unfortunately. So I hope he feels better soon. But Josh Lowenson from webware.com filling in quite adequately. Thanks for joining us, Josh.
Glad to be here.
This is your first time on Buzz Out Loud. We throw you right into the video.
I know, right into the fire.
We really appreciate your bravery there.
I'm glad to be here.
All right. Let's get right into the story. House overwhelmingly passed the controversial Pro-IP Act yesterday. The House of Representatives voted 410 to 10. So
sweeping.
Really overwhelmingly.
No kidding.
If you don't know, the Pro-IP Act is the act that will create a copyright enforcement division within the Department of Justice. A copyright enforcement czar, so to speak, would run that division. And the bill would also enable law enforcement agents to seize property from copyright infringers. An earlier version of the bill even would have allowed them to collect damages for each track copied from a CD. So...
But they're not taking your house, right?
Well, no. They're just going
Not
to take your
yet.
computers. Of course, there's lots of different ways to look at this. Some people say, no, this just means people who really go out and copy CDs and sell them on the street, copy DVDs, those kind of pirates. That's what this
So
is
surface level, this is more for like the person that's pirating to distribute for profit or something like that.
That's
right?
what some people say.
That's what they imply.
Other
anyways.
people say, oh, heck no. This is actually for the RIA and the MPA to scare the bejesus out of everyone, go after people like Jamie Thomas, seize their computers, so there's no more pro forma settling. If you settle with the RIA and admit guilt, they can still seize your materials.
So are they charging per thing that you steal or make copies of?
That is not the case as far as I understand this, collecting damages for each track. It still has to be the normal damages. But essentially it puts the law enforcement of the United States on the side of the recording and video industries.
Yeah.
Is this necessary?
I don't know if it's necessary, but I mean, they're going to take everything that they can get, right? The RIAA is going to push this as far as they can. And obviously something's working because they're able to get as far as they have with the Pro-IP Act. I don't know if it's necessary, though, but they seem to think it is.
This is going to put a price tag on movies, too. Because before it was kind of just songs, and now they're going to be able to charge you per movie that you take.
Yeah, well, I think it is ridiculous to have the police enforcement. This is a civil situation.
Right.
You do not need the police involved in it. It should be done the way it's being done as a civil suit, and turning it into a criminal prosecution is ridiculous. Not quite as ridiculous as our next story, which involves the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors declaring that copyright infringement substantially interferes with the interest of the public, the quality of life and community, peace, lawful commerce in the county, property values, and is detrimental to the public health, safety, and welfare of the county citizens. This meaning they could take your house. They could take your property. They can be fined $1,000 for each infringing work produced on site. So you got 3,600 MP3 copies? That's a lot of dough.
With the housing prices being what they are, though, that's probably not as bad as it was a couple years ago.
Well, my house isn't as worth as many MP3s as it used to. It's actually, the number has gone down. But both of these are just government interference where there does not need to be government interference in my estimation. What do y'all think?
Well, I think it's upping the ante severely. And in one day, I mean, yesterday we hadn't heard necessarily that both of these things were absolutely happening, and now it's kind of moving forward. I mean, in one day a lot of changes happened, and I don't know, it's pretty significant.
Yeah, I'm okay paying money,
sketchy.
but leave my house alone.
Yeah, I mean, do you think you should be dragged into civil court as a civil suit if you infringe, or do you think you should be put in jail and have the feds after
I mean,
you?
that's a terrible reason to go to jail, you know?
Yeah,
I mean,
it
other
is.
guys are going to be asking you, why are you there? And it's, I downloaded a couple movies.
I
and
like
copies.
music.
Of course, the
That's why I'm
MPAA
here.
says it helps the economy. That they're going to protect the industry now, and there are going to be more jobs, and
So this is a new stimulus package?
it's going to get us out of the recession, according to the MPAA. Yes. Absolutely. Now, this hasn't passed the Senate. We should make that clear. Forget the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors. Let's go back to the Pro-IP Act. The Senate has been mired in committee with this, so it is far from becoming law yet. And the president has sort of indicated that he has problems with it himself and might not sign it. So it's got a long way to go before it actually becomes law. But I would highly recommend writing your senator and letting them know what you think, whether you're for or against.
410 to 10. That's quite a large margin.
That was a heck of a victory, man.
That says something right there.
They won big. Somebody who's not winning big is Windows XP SP3, as if Microsoft didn't have enough problems fighting the hatred against Vista. Apparently, within hours, according to InformationWeek.com, within hours of SP3 begin downloading, problems were being reported. External disks having trouble starting up, people having problems even running it on AMD, endless reboots. It's just not good news for Microsoft.
That's definitely the last thing you want, too, because anytime you're doing an upgrade with your computer, you want everything to be better when you're doing one of these big upgrades. And for SP3, I mean, this is the biggest thing to happen to XP in so long.
Right.
And for it not to work, I mean, that's a huge slap.
It's a service pack that's supposed to address problems, not create more.
Well, and it's
but
not
always
even
the
that
case, right?
essential of a service pack at this point. You know, I mean, it has some bug fixes, has some niceties. It's not as big of a deal as SP2 was, which was almost like getting a whole new operating system in a way. I do remember when SP2 came out, we at CNET were recommending holding off upgrading for a while because there were some problems with SP2 at the first, so it's not unusual to have a bunch of issues with a service pack. But Microsoft's got a PR problem here.
Completely, because nothing seems to be going right as far as their operating system, business is concerned right now. It seems like they try and do something to fix the problem, and they just get negative press as a result, no matter what.
Do you run Windows?
I do.
Are you
gonna Vista?
Are you gonna do SP3? Oh, you're on Vista.
I'm on Vista. So I'm
Did
still
you do
kinda waiting.
SP1 for
It
Vista?
hasn't showed up yet in my download.
Are you not gonna? You're not running out to grab it?
No.
No.
Everything works fine for now, as well as it can.
So you're one of the silent majority.
Yeah,
who have no problem
The
with
silent
Vista.
majority, which meanwhile on the forums, that post I think is up to like 420, 450 right now. So not very silent anymore.
I wouldn't say, I wouldn't say it's a bad operating system. I think it just gets a lot of bad press.
Yeah.
It could be worse.
It has had some issues, though.
Yeah.
Definitely.
New bill is working its way into Congress about net neutrality. This time, Representative John Conyers of Michigan and Zoe Lofgren of California are suggesting that you amend the Clayton Act, that's the Clayton Antitrust Act of 1914, to apply to the Internet. So, in other words, violating net neutrality would be an antitrust violation.
Taking what was old and making it new again. Right?
It's a clever way to do it.
Well, sometimes I do feel like Comcast and other ISPs are kind of like the oil companies. They got a good grip on things, and sometimes that is an antitrust.
Well, and that's the brilliance of doing it this way, which is a lot of the criticisms of net neutrality in the past have been that we don't need new legislation. This isn't new legislation. It's just saying, well, there was no Internet in 1914. So all we need to do is amend that act to apply to the Internet. Let me see, in the Ars Technica story, they say that it does so by outlawing discriminatory fees for providing content, applications, or services over the net. Internet providers also have to interact fully with the networks of their competitors and provide equal access to all users and any devices they wish to put on the network. Network providers would also be allowed to provide favored service to specific types of data. If they do, they have to provide the same favoritism to anybody transmitting the data and couldn't charge for it.
So what would happen to the tiered packages of Internet?
Wouldn't be allowed to
Wouldn't
do
be
it.
allowed?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, no. The Clayton Act forbids charging different buyers different prices for the same product. So if the Clayton Act applies, presumably that wouldn't happen. Although, as with everything else in the Clayton Act going back to 1914, it has to be fought out in the courts to find out exactly what it means. So there'd be a lot more law involved, a lot more lawsuits involved, is what I'm trying to say.
I guess we'll see where this goes.
You like it? You don't like it? Come on.
I think it's a clever way
You
to
hate it.
package it. I think it's clever. Hey, if someone tells you no, don't create something new, you go back to something old and repurpose it. The repurposing old law. It's clever.
I'm against net neutrality legislation. I'm not. I have to do some thinking about this though, because I'm for net neutrality. I just don't think it should be legislated.
Right.
However, this is clever. This is just taking existing law and extending it. So I don't know. Interesting to consider. Josh, you marked this story. Apple is providing refunds for power adapters. What's going on with this?
Yeah, so they're taking all these power adapters from 2001 for the PowerBook and iBook. These, the old ones, the ones that weren't the MagSafe, you just plug them in. And apparently they were sparking. So
That's
there
not
was
good.
there was already an antitrust, or sorry, not antitrust,
Antitrust is on the brain right now.
class action lawsuit about this. And so now Apple is refunding people who have receipts or purchased one. Hopefully you still have that receipt. They're giving them back anything from $29 to $79.
So that has to be the PowerBook and the iBook then?
Yes.
I'll have to look into that. We have one at home.
Yeah, we just got rid of our last PowerBook. We sold it to a friend. I'll have to let him know. Watch out for the sparking. We never noticed any.
So we
any
have
sparking.
exploding batteries
Right.
and sparking power adapters. What's next?
You
Lots
know,
of
you play
fireworks.
with electricity. You should be assume that this type of thing might happen.
I'm okay with that as long as it's not on my lap.
Yeah, right. Well, as Apple has pointed out, it's not a laptop computer. It is not meant to be in your lap. It is a notebook computer. That was when the overheating issue was going on a while back, and people were complaining it was burning them.
Oh, come
I
on.
remember that.
They said that. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember that, but that's pretty funny.
Nokia had its annual shareholder meeting yesterday, and the only reason we're passing this along is that they announced that their goal is to act less like a traditional manufacturer and more like an internet company. CEO OPK is his initials. Do you know how to pronounce his name?
Kalusvua.
Kalasvuo? Kalasvuo?
He needs an acronym name.
Anyway, said
OBK.
companies such as Apple, Google, and Microsoft are not our traditional competitors, but they are major forces that must be reckoned with. Make no mistake, we are taking on these challenges seriously and aggressively. So they've reorganized into devices and services. They're no longer going to be considering themselves just a hardware manufacturer.
Sounds like Microsoft.
Yeah, it's very similar to Microsoft in that way.
Except
And
I don't want to play an N-Gage.
Right.
I want to play an Xbox.
well, N-Gage has become a service, so to speak. It's like a feature on phones now. The old N-Gage phone that was so sucky. You had to take the battery out to replace the
And
games.
talk like this.
And then there's comes with music, the service from
Right.
Nokia. So
Right.
they're kind of getting into this wider interpretation of what they do.
So they're jealous of Apple's iPhone and want to have a really hot brand with good phones,
Yeah.
but there's no real solution yet.
They're definitely going after the consumer market too, it seems, with this. They're not going to be competing with BlackBerry so much, I don't think. At least it seems to be the indication. Josh marked another good story that will be cool on the video version, but we'll try to help you out on the audio version. Tell us about the Liberty City interactive map.
Yeah, so Grand Theft Auto 4 just came out last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago, not sure. Anyways, it's huge, so like the biggest environment yet, and there's a lot of stuff on there, and the in-game map isn't so good, so the people at IGN put together this do-it-yourself Google map where you can add all sorts of little locations, and so they have all the ones that are in the game, but they're also letting users kind of add their own stuff, like, hey, this is where you can usually find, really cool trucks or really cool cars. So it's like a whole different level of interaction that you don't get with the game.
So would you have this on, like on your laptop or your notebook, sitting next to you while you play?
Yeah, what I'm thinking, I mean, sometimes people they'll get stuck on a mission or something, or they need a certain car, and they'll Google a wiki, which is kind of helpful, but then you're searching text, so this
Yeah.
is much more visual.
Or looking at walkthroughs or something like
yeah,
that.
I mean, GameFAQs, which CNET owns, that's a really helpful resource, but text only gets
Wow.
you so far.
So it's a cool mashup because you have these little start buttons all over the Google map of the area, and then you can do the normal Google like zoom in, zoom out, drag the map around, add filters so that you
Right.
can
Yeah.
do different things. It's pretty cool. Another pretty cool thing that we ran into today is the R2D2 DVD projector and wireless webcam.
Everybody needs one of these.
Yeah, this thing is awesome. It twirls around, it makes the R2D2 sounds, and then it, a la Princess Leia from Star Wars, projects your DVD video onto a screen behind you.
Will it blend, though?
Oh, it
Will
will
it blend?
blend. You need
We'll
a
see
big
about
blender
that.
for that baby, though.
I like that there's also a lightsaber phone that does VoIP phone calls.
Really? As part of this?
I want to see someone out in public with a lightsaber right by their head.
And the remote is a Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
So you got the
Which
Millennium
glows.
Falcon on the couch,
There you go.
and you use that to control the R2D2.
Don't get cocky, kid.
Pretty freaking awesome. Did we ever figure out how much it is?
I couldn't find the price tag, but this company also does a lot of little RC toys, including something called the iPlane, which is a styrofoam glider. Spelled I-Plane.
Styrofoam glider. And what else does it do?
It flies.
Oh, and then it's like a remote.
It does
control
not make
fly.
VoIP phone calls,
No.
though.
See, that's no good. What toy doesn't make VoIP phone calls
Anymore. I mean, come on.
Also, this is a total commercial, but speaking of Nokia N-Gage, they're trying to change your mind, Josh Lowenson.
I don't blame them.
With the getoutandplay.com. You got to put dashes between all those words. And it is a human breakout game where you actually control 3 people who are bouncing another person off of them down like what looks like a very dangerous alley somewhere in New York. And there are people in blue, green, and red T-shirts at the end that disappear as the person hits them. So it's just like the classic game Breakout.
Awesome.
The best part is that
It's addictive.
their little shirts, like they disappear and their shirts fall to the ground when they get hit and disappear. I haven't leveled up yet, so I don't know what happens the second time.
A longer alleyway, perhaps.
But you know, I mean, this is an example of really good advertising,
Yeah, it's cool.
where you know what, you don't mind that this is an ad. You're going there
Right.
to play the game.
What are
It's
they
pretty
trying
fun.
to sell
Well,
me,
and
though?
exactly.
I
That's
have
my
no
question.
idea.
Yeah.
So
I
I'm
mean-
playing the game, but do I really know why I'm playing the game? You know.
No. I found this, by the way. I should credit userfriendly.org again. That's where I find some of the best stuff. Their link of the day is pretty awesome. Also on Boing Boing today, you can do something good with those old CDs. If you're going totally digital, you've imported all your CDs lossless onto your media center PC or your server, and you're like, what do I do with all these backup discs? You know, I'm done with these. I don't want them. I've got all my stuff backed up. Take them to the Manchester Futuresonic 2008 conference, where you can have them converted into records.
Awesome. I love this.
My only concern is how long they're going to last.
Right, because CDs don't last as long as vinyl.
Well, you know,
although
but,
that was the
but
myth
think about
in the
that
80s.
though. Anytime I've ever had a CD not last very long or start to, destroy over time, it's I don't know what you call it, but underneath the layers, it's whatever that kind of reflective
Oh,
surface
the,
is on the
it's
inside.
the aluminum
this
oxide
is purely
on
on
the
the
inside.
outside. I don't think the plastic, like the outer shell of the plastic of the CD,
I think you're right,
ever
yeah.
really like disintegrates into nothing.
So this is actually better.
yeah, it might be better than vinyl.
Although I think the storage is quite less.
So can you
Yeah.
light scribe these too? Can you get custom printed labels on top?
That would be awesome, actually. They record them at 45 RPM. It would be better, I think, if they recorded them at 78.
Yeah.
And then you can play them.
Can't you get... Wait, no, you need to record them lower, 16. Record them at 16 RPM, and then you get actually slower fidelity, but wouldn't you get more data
You would
onto
get
the
more
disc that way?
yes, You would get more there, but it would be lower fidelity.
Of course, you have to
for
have
sure.
a record player that plays 16.
Still.
Have you ever even seen a 16 disc?
No,
Do you even know what I'm talking about?
I know that they
Records?
go slower, but
Yeah, there
What?
used to be, the old record players would have 45s, obviously,
Right,
33s, the
33s.
long play, 78s, which kind of were singles in the 30s, 40s, and went away, and then 16, a 16 setting.
yeah, I don't know if I've heard of.
Is that like the
16s.
Betamax in the record
I
world?
don't know, maybe it was. I remember we had one 16 record when I was growing up, but those were the days. I
You
found
had
a
a Betamax when you were growing up too, right?
No, we did not. I really wanted to have Laserdisc when I was growing up,
I had
and
a
my parents
Laserdisc.
didn't want to. They went VHS.
Yeah, I had
Those things
Laserdisc
were
when
heavy.
I was in
I
high
know,
school.
but they were cool looking.
They were
They
cool.
were.
Like, not
Except
even-
you had to always flip the disc after
Yeah,
an
yeah,
hour.
yeah.
That was.
Wasn't that the first digital copy of Star Wars was on?
I think you're
Laserdisc?
right.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They also had Tron.
MASH,
Ed,
the original movie.
who doesn't love Alan Alda?
No, Alan Alda and MASH, the original movie.
Really?
Oh, it was Donald
No, it was-
Sutherland.
That was
And-
the Robert Altman film.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I found on Google Reader, because I have a little Buzz Out Loud feed that just searches the internet for references to us, because we're vain that way. Somebody has created a new podcast, hosting it on archive.org, which we talked about yesterday, called This Week in BuzzTech Out Loud Geek Brief.
Brief podcast of indeterminate length.
It's manned by robots. You can sort of hear it there in the
Molly Cyborg
background.
Wood, and I can talk faster than any human that ever lived. Ever will
Molly
live, and if I
Cyber
get my
Wood
way.
is one of the hosts.
Sounds like GLaDOS from Portal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it kind of
it
does, doesn't it? It's probably the same
Totally.
sort of thing that was used. Anyway, the show intends to pay homage to great podcasts. You should know, if you go to listen to it, that there are a ton of swear words. So if you are offended by the F word and the H word and the D word and those kind of words, especially the F word, you're going to hear it a lot. So
Tech
you
comedy.
might want to know that. ahead of
Robots
time.
are really angry people.
They can be. Well, they want to kill us all. And they say so in this podcast. Got a voicemail from Puerto Rico. Javier did some research into gaming data usage regarding the whole metered bandwidth discussion we've been having. And this is valuable stuff. Listen close.
Hello, Molly, Tom, and Jason. This is Javier from Puerto Rico. I have always wanted to call, but never really had anything good to add to the ongoing buzz until the other day when you guys were discussing the Comcast bandwidth gap. Well, here in Puerto Rico, one of the two internet cable providers issued a statement a couple of months ago about placing a 40 gigabyte monthly data transfer cap with a $10 penalty for every 10 gigabytes downloaded after that and so on. Well, me being a gamer, it got me thinking about how much data was my nightly Call of Duty, Halo 3, and now GTA 4 multiplayer matches generating. After some tinkering with my router and computer, I was able to monitor all the data transfer being generated from my PS3 and Xbox and found out that the average 15-minute multiplayer match, be it for Halo 3 or for Call of Duty, generates about 5 megabytes of transfer, triple that if you're serving a game. So gamers out there shouldn't worry about how many aliens you frag or how many hookers you run down on any given night. Just remember that the average Rickroll takes about the same data transfer that you will be using if you were finishing the fight. Love the show. My vote is for Dr. M for Major.
That is excellent research, Javier.
Yeah, no kidding.
5 megabytes doesn't seem like much.
No,
of course,
it's
you
not
play
much.
every day. If you play
You have
all
to do
day,
a lot of
every
playing to
day,
reach
yeah.
that cap.
You know, it
Really.
could. Some people get up to that.
Well, you know
cap,
what's
I think.
increasing this too is all these console games now, at least with the PS3 and Xbox 360, they're also adding voice. So it's not just
Oh,
it's not
yeah,
just the
that's
game
gonna
data;
increase
it's a
it.
whole different level of data.
We were talking about, we were hoping if companies here in the U.S., 5Ps, put in a meter, they would give you a way to find out how much your usage is. Several people wrote in and was like, oh, well, there's this tool, this tool, this tool to find out your meter on your computer. That's great if all you use is your computer. But if you have an iPhone, if you
Right.
have an
A
Xbox
TiVo that
360,
connects to
a
the internet or
Wii,
something.
a TiVo that uses your internet
A
connection.
refrigerator with the internet on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Which
Then
most of us do. I mean, let's
you're going
face
to
it.
either need a meter on your router, which
Yeah.
is possible, or I think it's just easier if the ISP does it for most people. I mean, yeah, there's definitely ways to get around it and do it yourself, but I love that the idea that your gameplay is about the same as a Rickroll. Plus, another argument for stomping out Rickrolls, right
Yeah,
there.
exactly. Why Rickroll when you can play a game for an hour?
It would be interesting to
What's
add
more
up
fun?
how much bandwidth Rickrolling has cost the world, and to put some sort of
Yes.
monetary value on that.
Oh, that would be, yeah, somebody should do that. I would love to know what that figure is. It shouldn't be that hard to figure out either.
No, I'm sure we can do it.
All right, we got an email from Jack in Toledo, Ohio. Says, my group of friends and I have an annual vacation LAN party where we don't have internet access for the week. This trend of games developers assuming we all have internet access at all times makes it even more unlikely we'll be able to play their games at our get-together. Of course, he's referring to the EA game that we talked about yesterday that puts in DRM that requires you every 5 to 10 days to check in on the internet. So if somebody's gone more than 5 days, they're at the LAN party.
I must say, I hate DRM on games. If only because recently I didn't have internet in my new place, and I had a 360, and all their Xbox Live Arcade games, if you're not hooked up, and you bought it on another console or at some other time, you can't play them unless you're hooked up. It'll just play the trial version.
Oh, really?
So, I
you
mean-
can't like transfer it over and have it move the license. at all.
Exactly.
It's
It just
it's stuck.
assumes that you don't have the license unless you're connected and it can verify it with their servers.
They haven't learned anything from music, have they?
No.
When
No.
you upset the legitimate, honest members of your audience, it doesn't do you any good.
And there's a big difference between not being able to listen to Rick Astley
Yeah.
and not being able to play GTA.
Yeah, it's like there's a spectrum, right? Which is rent a video, watch it once. DRM doesn't impact you as much, actually.
Yeah.
Rick Astley, you want to listen to it all the time, right?
All the time.
I mean, I know Jason does.
I do.
So DRM impacts you more. Gaming, I think it impacts you even more.
Yeah. Because it's way more interactive.
Yeah. I also run into a bunch of DRM problems when I'm virtualizing, because I've taken to running Windows in parallels on OS X, and of course now I have to reauthorize that machine for all of my tunes, all of my wife's tunes. I have to figure out, oh, wait a minute, there's some computer that's authorized that we don't own anymore. Now I have to either go deauthorize
Deauthorize it.
everything and then reauthorize everything. Total pain. Kyle, the night pharmacist in Minnesota, wrote in and said, I'm just listening to episode 720 here while selling drugs to people I don't know, because he's a pharmacist. And I could swear I just heard Tom say the ISPs have better backup systems than you do. What? Do I have to remind you that my current provider, Charter, accidentally deleted email accounts of thousands of subscribers earlier this year and basically said, whoops, we don't have a backup? Our subscribers should take responsibility for this. This is just one reason they are on the way out the door as my provider. Keep up the great work. You bring sunshine to my nights. Well, I'm glad we do that, Kyle, and that's a good point.
Yeah.
ISPs generally and should have better backups.
And I'd venture to guess that Charter might have a backup at this point.
Do you think so? I mean,
I don't know.
They
If
definitely
you
did
lose
try to
that
say
many-
like, oh, it's up to our subscribers to back up their
Yeah,
email. So
yeah, I guess so.
Kyle, get a Gmail account or something. Don't trust the ISPs.
Well, and you gotta figure that if they're going to have some sort of backup system available for you, that they will be backing up that backup system. But make sure they do before you pay for that. That's all I'm saying. Andrew wrote in, said, I recently sold my Wii. He's one of those people that got bored of it, I guess.
Or made some money off eBay.
Yeah, right. Went to Best Buy to grab a 360. I know all about the Red Ring of Death and how Microsoft extended their warranty to 3 years because of this problem. Not to mention, since they got the new Falcon chipsets, those problems have been reduced. So the employee tried to sell me the service plan. No problem. I said no thanks. He came back at me and said Microsoft only has a 1-year warranty and it does not cover the Red Ring of Death. Not to mention, he told me that Rock Band has no warranty. I have no problem with employees selling service plans, but don't lie. If it was some mom buying a 360 for their 12-year-old son, I'm sure she would have bought it hook, line, and sinker. Yeah, so first of all, the selling of the warranties, that's always a problem. My recommendation is say no, unless you've got a really good reason otherwise. But I'll include links in the show notes at bol.cnet.com to the Xbox warranty and the Rock Band warranty, because you got a bad employee there. Not all employees are going to be like this.
Not to mention, Andrew here knows what a Falcon chipset is. I guarantee you the Best Buy guy does not.
Yeah, most likely not. At least, certainly this guy doesn't, right?
Right.
So yeah, hate it when there's FUD out there, and we try to fight it as much as possible. There is a 3-year warranty in a Red Ring of Death. Xbox.com has it. There is a warranty on Rock Band, especially if you have problems with peripherals. It's on rockband.com.
So do research before you buy.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much true all
Simple.
the time, right? And finally, or not finally, actually, Anonymous wrote in and said, you missed one detail about the EPC with Linux costing more than the EPC with Windows. The Linux version comes with 20 gigabytes of flash storage, while the Windows version only comes with 12 gigabytes. I looked into how this would affect the price difference between the Linux and Windows versions based on the price of the flash drives, and the conclusion that the Linux version costs too much is still true. However, it is worth noting that some of the price difference, around $50, can be accounted for by the different capacities. So, okay, we moderate our outrage by the amount of $50. And finally, GW wrote in and said, say, about this Comcast 250 gigabyte limit. Let's say you try and replace Comcast TV with watching videos on Xbox 360 or Apple TV. The average American watches 4 hours and 35 minutes a day, this in 2006, of television. Assuming HD at 6 megabits per second, this uses 346 gigabytes in a 28-day month, much more than the cap.
And that's just assuming only that.
So maybe this
else.
would actually help cut down on the amount of television watching.
I want to meet a person who can do this much TV watching and retain a normal lifestyle and pay for it.
Oh, if you're buying it from Xbox 360 or Apple TV?
I mean, yeah, if he's saying that you're going to get movies off that, I mean, it's $6 a pop at HD.
You got to do it
paying
off
for
like
the
something
TV
like
for that.
Hulu or Netflix.com or something free.
In which case, right now, you're not streaming at HD, so...
I think Hulu has HD.
Oh, are they
Netflix
streaming
doesn't.
at HD?
Yeah, but I think Hulu does, don't they? Doesn't Hulu have some HD
They have an
stuff?
HD gallery
Oh, okay.
with little
It's not
clips
full
and
on.
movie
Little
trailers.
clips, yeah.
Gotcha.
There you go. Well,
All right, that
that's
wraps
all
up this edition of Buzz Out Loud. Of course, folks, you can find the video version of today's episode at cnettv.com, as well as all kinds of other shows, video stuff that Molly and I do. Josh, you're occasionally on a WebWare video now and then.
True.
No? Yeah? Yeah? Rafe Needleman, Brian Cooley, Natalie Del Conte, the whole gang. So go to cnettv.com and just let it play.
Yeah, just leave it on in the background.
Yeah, just watch it all day long. You can also get in touch with us at, what's our number? 888-900-CNET?
616-CNET.
616. See, I'm in the studio, so I want to give out the CNET Live phone number, which is different. It's 888-616? No, it's 800-616.
Yes.
888-900 is CNET Live. 800-616-2638 is the phone
right.
number. And just to double check me, go to bol.cnet.com because that has all
It's
of our
all there.
information.
It's
Thanks
a
again for
fail-safe.
joining us, Josh.
That was great.
All right, see you later, folks.